Greetings. This will be a short video, I hope, on why product information management is important and some of the tools that we have to make that very, very hard task more manageable. Which ones we have implemented and failed, which ones we're hoping to implement, and which ones we're going to resurrect and possibly improve upon. Anyway, so being here in sales order entry in Eclipse, we get our first experience of the product information. As we all know, you put in the quantity of the product and then you type in at least 3 characters or more to get a search list of the product that you're hopefully wanting to put on the order. Hopefully there's 1178 here. And then obviously the more stuff that you type in that's relevant, the shorter the search list will have to be. Now this indicates some of the reasons why you need to have data consistency and product maintenance. As you can see here, you don't want to have duplicate products because the salesman wouldn't know which product to pick. It would be purchased under the wrong item, it would be probably received wrong, and it would probably be priced wrong, which wouldn't be great. You obviously don't want 100 products in your file that say green chingadera, because if you do a search and you get 100 results back of what look like the identical thing, not terribly helpful. When you have junior salesmen, it's important to have consistency on the descriptions. Like for instance here, what's this? A wall plate, light almond wall plate. Well, if you have it light almond in one place, or LTALM, or AL, or AL, if you're not consistent with your abbreviations, it's very, very hard for them to find the right product and be able to search effectively. So you want to make sure that you've given your salesmen as much information as you can and made it as easy as possible for them to find information in the system so they can do the sale, because sales is hard enough as it is without having to hunt around. And quite often, if they hunt around too much, they're going to get angry and they're just going to go ahead and create a product, and then it's going to be all kinds of crazy from there. So you can create a manual product in Eclipse, as we know. You could, we'll just blank this out here and go to line item and new non-stock item. This encourages a lot of mistakes. Salesman's in a hurry, he's going to put in the bare minimum. Green thing, UPC code blank, price line, don't give a fuck. Price, don't give a fuck. Next, 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 done. They just want to get it on the order, get the customer gone, and let it be someone else's problem. As this behavior accumulates over years, then you get a whole bunch of mess on the back end for the people doing purchasing or data maintenance, usually the purchasing department or purchasing agent, has to spend hours upon hours upon hours cleaning up these records to try and keep the system clean enough so that sales can continue. So a salesman trying to save 30 seconds on the front end can create hours on the back end. You don't want to do that. You want to, as seldomly as possible, have your salesman have to do a raw non-stock product entry. Now, quite often you'll go in and you'll use a product that already exists. Let's say pick that one there, and you would copy it. So you'd do the bare minimum and create the new record from the copy. And people being people, they tend to do the barest minimum. So they're going to do a copy and they're going to change these last 10 letters here on the description, call it done. Well, now what did you foul up? The keywords are wrong. All the other fields of information are going to be wrong. There's no barcode, or the barcode's wrong. And you've created a mess on the back end. It makes it harder for purchasing, it makes it harder for receiving, it makes it harder for pricing. That's why we don't want to do that as much as we can get away with. A lot of times the purchasing agent will go into product maintenance and create the product from here instead of from within sales order entry to give them access to more information fields but this is a botch up as well in most cases. Staying consistent from record to record and making sure that light is always abbreviated LT instead of LTE or LIGHT or LIG or whatever it is, so you don't cause a muck-up on the other end. It's hard to remember that kind of stuff. It's also hard to remember the primary fields. UPC codes are important, believe it or not. Making sure that the catalog number is correct and entered is really important, believe it or not. Maybe not for you, but other people are dependent upon that information, and if you don't give it to them or you give them the wrong information, you've made their lives harder, and they will not be happy with you. Now, when you're looking at products one at a time like this, not only is it time consuming to make changes one at a time, but it's very hard to really get a good idea of how much damage is in the system and how much things have kind of gone adrift. But luckily Eclipse has 3 different report writing programs and a lot of different ways of getting at that data and showing things to you in a view that helps get your head around what's going on. So here we're going to switch to eTerm because I have some reports in the old system that I use for that. You could use the more modern tools, but this works best for my purposes. So I have a variety of reports in here that allow me to pull information out of the product file table in the database, so I can see these in more useful detail when I'm looking at blanket changes. Anytime, get into your head, anytime you're having to make a change one record at a time, you're wasting money. You want to be able to make changes hundreds, thousands at a time. This is the 21st century. You don't have time to go record by record. You want to be able to change a lot of them, maintain them all at once. Anyway, that's the report. Here's a report that I created out of that tool. And now things become a lot clearer because now I can see them en masse. And you can see data inconsistencies and you can see problems. In this case, right off the bat, we can see we have a problem here with a duplicate record. This becomes a problem. If the salesman tries to sell this product, which one are they selling? Do they just pick one and it's the wrong one? There's catalog number information or UPC code information that's wrong. Now you've fouled up the sale. So duplicate records are a bad idea. We have situations where in a lot of the reports I do, when I'm trying to manage product information, I'm trying to match information in Eclipse with information from vendors, quite often I'm using the catalog number. Well, if you've done like people normally do, which is copy an existing product and then change a few parameters, as we showed, the catalog number is in, it's not in the main screen, it's in a secondary screen. Here's the record again. It's UPC, user defined maintenance, and there it is. It's easy to forget it's there. And if you do that, then when I go do reports on the other end and try and match up information, now you've made it 3, 4, 10 times harder for me because now I got 3 or 4 products that have the wrong catalog number on them. And I will not be happy, and it makes my life hours more difficult, and it costs you money. Things here like creating products without UPC codes. UPC codes, you're thinking, yeah, why are those important? Well, because in the case of 5 Star Electric, we're going to be putting in wireless warehouse in a couple of years and using barcodes. If there's no barcodes in that record, now the whole process is broken. Someone, and guess who, probably me, is going to have to go in and put in all those missing barcodes. Well, currently there's about 4,000 products with missing barcodes and probably 15,000 products that have the wrong barcodes. That's a lot of wasted money because we didn't maintain barcodes. And not to harp on this a whole lot further, but as we know in our system, our invoices we send out with the alternate description. If you didn't put in the alternate description because you were in a hurry and you go to sell this darn thing, then when the customer gets the invoice, they're going to get a quantity of, I bought 10 of blank. And then you're going to get a call going, what the hell did I buy 10 of? And that makes the invoicing process more painful. So product information is important. Maintenance is important. If you don't think maintenance is important, try not taking a bath for a year, or a shower, or any type of hygiene, and see how that affects things. Maintenance is one of those things that's done. It's all connected to the money. Now, product maintenance is a multi-step process. There's no one solution. You have to use a combination of solutions and then have a process and people to run those processes. One of the first things that you start off with, the low-hanging fruit, is investing in a yearly subscription to a catalog service. In this case, Trimble Trade Service was the original catalog service, and they're still pretty good. And almost all the product information from the first batch of 17,000 products when the system was created were all using the trade service information. So standardized abbreviations, commodity codes, etc., etc. All pretty good. Trade service has gotten a bit stale over the years though, and the current darling right now is a company called IDEA, and they have this IDEA connector product, and they have much more modern tools, much easier to do product selection and exports and use their information in a variety of ways. Originally, these things were designed just for product information to dump into Eclipse, and therefore there was no information that would be useful for e-commerce. Over the years, they've added to that. I would say IDEA and another company called Unilog, which uses IDEA data and then extends it, are much more useful for the e-commerce end of product catalog and information management. Anyway, so here's the first part: is you got to sign up to a catalog service. Why? Why not just scrape the data? Well, because you could be dealing with thousands of lines. You're assuming that the people you're scraping the information from were using accurate information, and I'm here to tell you, after spending a year doing data scraping, no, you get all kinds of crazy out of people's websites. There's a lot of information that wouldn't be there, like measures or weights. Certain pricing might not be available. So, and the descriptions are inconsistent, even within one company's website, because they tend to have people that come and go, and so the way the descriptions are written are inconsistent. Also, it depends on the platform. With Eclipse, since you usually are trying to squeeze everything into 35 characters or 2 lines, 70 characters, you're using a lot of abbreviations. On the e-commerce site, you wouldn't. So if you're just using one source, you may not have extended descriptions. In the case of IDEA, they do, but sometimes it takes some massaging. So just to say that catalog service is important, but don't see that as your only tool in the arsenal either. And this is just at best one half of the puzzle. Then there's the other half, which in our case is an Eclipse companion product called the Product Data Warehouse. The version of Product Data Warehouse that we purchased some time ago is the old original one, so it can only be seen in eTerm. It is an old bear to make work, but it's still a very, very useful tool. I would highly suggest that we go ahead and buy the newer PDW2 because it works in solar and it's got a couple of conveniences to it, but it's not necessarily the end of the world if we have to stick with this one. Product Data Warehouse is found here on the secondary menu, and without getting into all of these things, this is what PDW does. So if you've signed up to a catalog service and you've selected your product lines from the different vendors that you represent and it's been approved, then you schedule a weekly or once every 2 weeks or once a month product file generation of all the updates that are relevant to those vendors. Then with the PDW product, your Eclipse system goes out at that regular period of time, looks for a new file, imports all of that data into a completely separate table in the Eclipse database. Not the product file. It goes to a whole separate spot. Call it information purgatory. And then you use these tools, a combination of templates and other utilities. You take the data out of the master database, which could be 3 million products, and use that to maintain the information in your product file, which probably in our case only has 35,000 products, but may only have 250,000 where it tops out completely. Out of the 31,000, only 8,500 are active in any one particular year. But you can see it gets out of proportion very, very fast. Anyway, so PDW allows you to use the information from the catalog service to manage your product file. If things go adrift, you can overwrite information and put them back to normal again. You can take pricing information and do discount formulas and try and maintain your pricing a little bit better. PDW is also not restricted to only being able to use IDEA and using a pull catalog of data. You can also take spreadsheets from vendors or data that you've scraped from other sites, and that can be incorporated into the PDW table as well. You can also mix and match data so that you can use, say, the weights and measures information from IDEA on the products, but product descriptions you want to pull from a spreadsheet that you imported into PDW from the vendor. And you can mix and match the both. Extremely powerful. It's not the funnest thing to work with, but it does work. And if you've ever had to try and rewrite 100 product records one at a time manually, or comparatively be able to do it with PDW, this will make a believer out of you. So going back to Eclipse sales order entry, we'll see the other end of PDW, which helps things even further. For existing products, it's going to be very useful for managing the information and cleaning up things that have gone adrift, but it also helps prevent the creation of new problems too. As we mentioned before, manual creation of products invites errors. As you know, if we're looking up a product, we get our search list, and the tabs that people never pay attention to, all they see as primary is they never pay attention to catalog or PDW catalog index. The catalog, this goes to product maintenance, and you see here on the main screen you have index type primary and catalog. If you're trying to shorten your searches so that your salesmen are able to find products more accurately, I mean, over years you have product lines that clog up the searches, you have cross-references and shortcuts and keywords that you get a lot of garbage in your search results. Sometimes it's customary for product maintenance, if you've got an item that you think you'll never need again but you're not entirely sure, and you want to keep the product history for whatever reason, you can switch the item from primary to catalog, and now it won't show up in the primary search, and it can still be found by just clicking the catalog tab if it doesn't show up in the primary. That it makes the search list much shorter, so that's a very powerful thing. The other powerful thing is the PDW catalog index. And this allows you to take the product data catalog information, most of which is probably coming from IDEA, but could be coming from a variety of sources, vendors, whichever, and it will pull the information through a template and create the record on the fly. So instead of the salesman having to muck about in a manual product creation and probably making things much worse down the stream, they can just select it off the list. The product is already created with all the important information necessary to maintain it and synced. And now a whole bunch of problems that never had to exist don't. So very, very useful and highly recommended. When a product is synced with PDW, when you look at the record, the sync will show up here in the screen, this link. You see this PDW ID, that's telling you that this product record in the product file number 13623 is linked to this record in the PDW table of 149.0361. And you can do these syncs one at a time, although PDW has a way of doing a whole bunch of them at once, or reviewing and cleaning up, which is very, very handy. But once these records are linked together, now you can use the PDW information to overwrite and modify as necessary the information in the product file so things don't go adrift. It has some tools built into it. Since this is a link, you can actually take a quick look at the information that is in the product data warehouse file, and we've got 98 fields of information that are imported here. And this type of cross-checking allows us to make better use of PDW and to verify the integrity of the data. So PDW and Idea Catalog, okay, that's great for maintaining the Eclipse system, but what about this? What about e-commerce? What about Amazon? What about any type of e-commerce platform or catalog that we might put out where we've got data, quite often the same data or bits of the same data spread across several different platforms? Trying to keep those in order becomes a nightmare real quick. It's a scalable problem. As you add more products, the problems become exponential. The number of man hours that need to be put into it go exponential as well. So, something like BigCommerce, well, how do we match up that information? Because when someone goes to take an order out of the e-commerce system and they have to enter it into Eclipse, the information better match up. The pricing better be the same. The catalog numbers better be the same, or else it takes more time for the sales order or the sales process to be complete, or God forbid we make a mistake and then we end up with a return and we lose money. And we can't do that. We don't want to do that. So how do we manage that information? Obviously, Idea helps some, but then we're also dealing with other data sources as well. We may be getting product pictures from the vendor. We may be getting weights and measures information from some other third source. We might be scraping information for market pricing, that type of stuff. And PDW, you can't do exports. It's only for Eclipse, so we can't use that as a repository. What are we going to do? Where do we put that additional levels of information that we need for the other platforms? This is where a product like AKENEO, a product information manager, comes in very handy. In this case, this is a open source product, so it only really costs us the cost of hosting it on the Google Cloud Computing platform. It takes a short span of time to spool it up. I think our current costs are about $27 a month for the prototype, so it's not very expensive. And this allows you, this is a repository for dumping information from several sources like Idea, IDW, or the vendors, or scraping services, or what have you, and dumping it into one simple interface to be able to manage the information. With this, it has API hooks that connect into platforms like Magento or BigCommerce. And you can do an equivalent PDW sync of the data and refresh as needed. We can also do exports out of AKENEO into PDW to take data from other sources and incorporate it in with the idea information in PDW and keep things synced and extended there and allow the creation of new products that much faster. As we said before, in e-commerce systems, well, in say our e-commerce site, we want to have 500,000 products. Well, obviously we're not going to put 500,000 products that we've never sold in the product file. That would be a nightmare of being able to search anything. But it's going to be more of a nightmare if every time someone goes to do a sales order, one of the 5 products on the sales order from the e-commerce site is a new product and they have to create it. Now it slows it down and invites errors. So being able to use the product information manager and import into PDW the product information for all the products that are also in the e-commerce site so that they can be created cleanly as the sales order is done is a godsend savior of time and effort and reduction of problems. Something like AKENEO has a lot of very convenient features. It's multi-user, of course. You can have several different people adding, deleting, exporting, etc., product information. It allows you to create specified fields of information peculiar to particular product lines. You can manage them one at a time, or you can do mass changes with spreadsheet exports. You can make sure that you're only having fields of information that pertain to a particular product. So there's one template for, say, wiring devices. There's another template for lighting, because lumens is not important when I'm looking at a wall plate or a receptacle. You can also take and make certain fields mandatory, and this thing will keep track of how many of those mandatory fields are completed and give you a simple quality of how complete is this product information, both individually and as an entire line for a particular manufacturer. So you have some tools built into it to maintain the integrity of the data. Think of the product information as a manager like AKENEO here as a one ring to rule them all, where IDEA and PDW kind of only are Eclipse and Eclipse specific. The PIM allows us to run and synchronize multiple platforms and have multiple people working with this data at the same time. And the costs are nominal as far as monthly costs, as we said, for the hosting. It's a little bit of effort on the front end to set up, but it saves thousands of hours on the back end later on. And that completes what I have to say about product information management. So thank you for your attention.